So the S&P 500, the single most watched financial index on the planet, just fell again. That could mean two very different things. It could mean the worst is behind us and the historic bounce is coming, or it could mean that we entered a territory that markets haven't priced in yet, and the real damage is still ahead. And I have a chart that I want to share with you that's going to change the way you think about what is happening. The chart is titled S&P 500 around major geopolitical event since 1939. It was produced by Bloomberg and Deutsche Bank Asset Allocation. Very credible name. So first, look at the bottom axis. The horizontal line across the bottom, this is measuring trading days, not calendar days, trading days. The market are open 5 days a week, as you know, so 5 trading days is 1 week. The zero in the middle, that vertical black line, that represents the moment the shock event begins, day zero. And in this case, that's the start of active U.S. military engagement with Iran. And to the left of that zero line, we have 21 trading days before the event, roughly 1 month before. And to the right, we have 63 days after. That's about 3 months. Now, the vertical axis, the number on the left and right, that's an index price level. Everything is set to 100 at the moment the event starts. So the market goes up to 103, that means it rose 3%. If it drops to 97, it fell 3%. So look at the three lines on the charts. The solid dark navy blue line, that is the Iran war, what's going on right now. So that's today. The olive line, that's the median, that's the middle of the road when you average all of other geopolitical shocks since 1939. All those other wars and crises, the median market response is that solid green line. I guess that's what normal looks like. The dashed green line above and below, that's the 25th and the 75th percentiles. I don't want to get too complicated, but think of it as guardrail. The upper dash shows that where the best 25% of shock recoveries landed, and because there were lots of shocks, and the lower dash line shows the worst 25%. So the area between them is where 50% of all geopolitical shocks events fall. And, to my members, I talked about this morning, right? Here's the key insight. If markets are between those two dash lines, the current event is behaving normally compared to history. If the current event goes below the lower dash lines, we are in historically unusual territory. Worse than 75% of all prior shocks. Now look at the blue line, right? The Iran war. If you look at the dark one, at the yellow, if you look at the yellow circles, well, we're at day 22. 22 trading days, right? Not 22 days. Because someone's going to say, well, it's been more than 3 weeks. 4 times 5 is 20. It's 4 months, basically, for 1 month. So we're below the lower, we are below the lower dash lines. We are below the 25th percentile. We are in the worst quartile of all geopolitical shocks events since 1939. Down of, the cone of probability, down approximately 9% from the moment the conflict began. And I will tell you, the comments that I'd made, that was before I got to that chart, when I said, this is different, this feels different. So that's where we are, and that's what we're dealing with. That's what you need to understand with it, that's what we're dealing with. So let me give you some context, right, for why this matters so much. Since 1939, markets have navigated through some of the most terrifying events in human history. World War II, the Korean War, the Cuban Missile Crisis, when nuclear war was almost within reach, the Vietnam War, the 1973 oil embargo, the Gulf War, September 11, the Iraq invasion, Russia and Ukraine. In all of these events, every single one, the median market response was relatively modest dip of a few percentage around day zero, followed by a fairly steady climb to and above the starting point within a couple of months. The market historically has been remarkably calm in the face of geopolitical terror. The old saying, markets climb of war to worry, is actually backed by 87% of data. But right now, the Iran war response is breaking that pattern. We are at day 22 based on the chart, and the S&P is sitting roughly 9% below where it was when active U.S. military engagement began. This is not just a dip. This is a historical, unusual sell-off. To put it another way, in 75% of all geopolitical events since 1939, the market did not fall this far, this fast. We are in the bottom quartile of outcomes. We have gone past the average sell-off. We have gone past the median. And we are pushing through the floor, or where most of these events have historically found their low. Now, there's an important caveat here. And I want to be honest with you because it's what this channel is about. This chart also shows that some shocks, the one in the lower 25% zone, did eventually recover. Right? We look at the low, even the worst one recovered. So we will recover. They bounce back, sometimes sharply over the following weeks. So being in a bottom quartile in the day 22 is not necessarily a death sentence for portfolios, but it is a signal. A signal that something unusual is happening, and unusual situations require unusual attention. What makes this particular shock different from, say, the Gulf War or the Iraq invasion, a few things stand out. One, the speed and scale of escalation. The US-Iran conflict has moved faster than most previous geopolitical events. Markets hate uncertainty, right? And this conflict has been generating uncertainty at a pace that's hard to absorb. That's one thing. Two, the macro backdrop, right? We're not entering this conflict from a position of strength in terms of market valuation. Coming into 2026, equity valuations were stretched, interest rates were elevated, and there were already cracks forming in consumer spending and credit markets. And geopolitical shocks hit harder when the foundation is already fragile. Third, energy markets. Iran is a major oil producer, and this conflict has injected significant uncertainty into global energy supply chains. That has ripple effects across every sector of the economy, from transportation to manufacturing to consumer goods. And all of this is why this chart is so important right now. I'm not just saying the market is down. It's saying the market is down in a way that is historically unusual, and that demands a framework for thinking about what happens next. Before I go into further scenarios, I want to mention that inside my membership community, I've been actively documenting my own portfolio and talk about those issues more in detail. Now, I want to take you deeper here, because the scenarios I just laid out, it's a surface. Let me give you the layer underneath it. The thing that most financial media isn't really talking about. The percentile trap. Yeah, is something subtle about this chart that I want you to notice. The 25%, percentile, 25th percentile, the bottom dash line, right, is not the floor of what's possible. It is the floor of where 75% of events ended. The other 25 went lower, so some went significantly lower. The charge on the y-axis goes down to 91, and the blue line has touched that level at day 22. But look at what happened at some of those historically worst levels. They eventually recovered. They are part of the same data set, which means that even the event that broke through the lower dash lines eventually absorbed by market. The question isn't just how far down we go, it is how long we stay down. And that's where sequence of returns risk comes in, a concept that is critical for anyone who is near retirement or drawing down from a portfolio. If you're in your early years of investing, decades away, a 9 to 15% drawdown is painful but manageable. Time heals it. But if you are in a near retirement or you're drawing from your portfolio, a prolonged drawdown at the wrong moment in your life can permanently impair your wealth. This is called sequence of returns risk. And it's why the grind scenario, not just the crash scenario, is dangerous for certain investor. The median doesn't tell you. The median line, this chart is incredibly useful, but it hides something important. The median is the midpoint of 87 years of very different event. Nuclear standoff in Cuba and a regional conflict in the Middle East, both were averaged in there. The distribution is wide, right? So what the median doesn't capture is regime change. There are periods in history where the macro regime, the underlying conditions, fundamentally shifts. We saw that in the 70s when high inflation became entrenched. We saw it in 2008 when the financial architecture itself was threatened. If the US-Iran conflict triggers a regime change, not in government, but in financial regime, which I feel it is happening, the median becomes almost meaningless as a reference. A new set of rules will apply. The warning sign of a regime shift would be persistent energy inflation that embeds into wages and services. And the longer oil is at $100 plus, the more likely that is going to happen. A rapid de-dollarization move by major oil producers. A treasury market disruption. Now, de-dollarization has been happening. Something that breaks the normal functioning of the world reserve assets. None of those have happened yet, but they are the things to watch. And if any of them are up, the investment playbook needs to be shifted dramatically. And here's another thing to watch out for. Gold. Historically, when equity sells off in response to geopolitical shock, gold often rises. That's a classic safe haven trade. But what we've been seeing recently, and this is remarkable, gold has been rising even when equity markets were more stable. Gold was already telling us something before the equity market confirmed it. Right? The gold to silver ratio is also worth watching. When fear is extreme and real silver tends to lag gold. Both go up, but gold goes up faster because it's seen as pure financial insurance. When confidence starts returning, silver catches up and can outperform because you do more stuff with silver. If you watch the gold to silver ratio alongside this S&P geopolitical shock chart, you get a dual signal, one from real assets and one from financial assets. So what should investors do? Here's how I think about positioning across three scenarios we lay out. First, and this is true regardless of which scenario plays out, if you are over-concentrated in broad U.S. equity indexes right now, that is a risk you should be aware of. The S&P has broken through the historical floor for geopolitical shocks. That doesn't mean sell everything, but it does mean that concentration is in one asset class is a risk worth considering. Second, commodities and real assets deserve a place in your thinking right now. Energy shocks, oil producers, LNG exporters, tankers companies tend to benefit from sustained geopolitical tension. They're not correlated in the same way as tech stocks is to market sentiment. Third, precious metals, gold, silver, and the miners that produce them are worth paying attention to. If you get the grind scenario, the most likely scenario in my view, gold and silver tend to preserve purchasing power while equities struggle. If we get the bounce scenario, they may lag equities. If we get the break lower, the bear case, they could significantly outperform. Fourth, and I know this sounds boring, cash is not nothing. Right now, with short-term interest rates still meaningfully positive, holding some cash gives you two things. It protects you if markets fall further. The ability to buy quality assets at a discount is only valuable if you have something to buy it with, and this is what I am doing with my members. I talked about this morning. You need some cash. And fifth, think about the barbell. This is the framework. On one end, very safe, very liquid assets. And on the other end, calculated positioning of high upside, asymmetric plays that could benefit from actual disruption. And finally, stay informed. Don't trade every headline. The market is going to be volatile. There may be days that feel like the worst is over. There'll be days it feels like the world is ending. You need to realize that volatility is not loss.